I'm pretty sure that most of you, if not all of you, know the line from the Spider-Man comics, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that saying has a bearing on the topics that we're discussing today, but in a different fashion. Social entrepreneurs have great power because they take on great responsibility. Let me explain what I mean thereby. So first of all, social entrepreneurs are contributing to making niche solutions mainstream. What you see here is a general model of technological and commercial innovation that is looking at, how at the bottom line you see these technological niches, people are trying out new things are accumulating, and at some point, especially when the market pressure gets big enough, these things break through. So you have the socio-technological regimes that you see on the left that are breaking up through this innovation and are sort of reformed in a new constellation here. The example that this research is based on is a historical one. So the guy who's done this research, Frank Geels, is using the example of how steamboats back in the past replaced sailing ships at some points when the market environment was ready. From the outset, I think the process of social entrepreneurship looks quite similar, but if you go into the details, it is very different. Just take the example of Mohammed Yunus, microcredits, and the Nobel Peace Prize that he got awarded for those. I think this example outlines very nicely that social entrepreneurship is not only about coming up with a viable commercial product, it's about much more. It's about shaping policy, it's about shaping values, it's about shaping how we think about things, and especially shaping social practices. So the big difference in social entrepreneurship is that social entrepreneurs are working these systems that you see on the left alongside promoting their innovation. And these cracks that are created in the structures and the recomposition is part of the social entrepreneurial process. This is how they bring niche solutions to mainstream and contribute to sustainable transformations. But this is only one part of the story. There's additional transformations that social enterprises are promoting. And how do we know? Because luckily we have more data available. So I'm referring here to the European Social Enterprise Monitor that Euclid Network is bringing together with collaborators in the 8 countries that you see listed here. And we are trying to bring that data to you at the European Social Economy Summit that is going to take place at the end of May in Mannheim, obviously virtually in the current situation. And the line and the prompt that I have at the bottom here, join in, means obviously join us for the presentation of the results at the European level. But at the same time, if you're not in one of the 8 listed countries and you're interested in bringing the Social Enterprise Monitor to your country, get in touch with us and we'll see how we could realize that. So what does that data enable us to say? So I'm referring to the German Social Entrepreneurship Monitor, which has already been published a few weeks ago. And you see a very impressive lineup of figures here in terms of how social enterprises are promoting gender equality. So you see the share of females at the CEO level, at the board level, and at the employee level. And everyone, even if you don't know the data, will know that in commercial entrepreneurship, this looks very different. So this is a transformation that social entrepreneurs are bringing about. The second point that I want to make, and that relates to the Social Economy Science Conference that we've been running at the end of 2020, especially Julie Batilana's work, which is also going to appear in the Stanford Social Innovation Review series, which we just kicked off, is about the democratization of work. So social enterprises are working on low hierarchies. They're trying to make their employees and other stakeholders participate. So basically, they are promoting a blueprint for the organization of the future that is more democratic. And obviously, it's not only the event that I just mentioned and the series, but also prior work, especially by the MS Network and collaborators there. So we've been doing the research for the German report is this social enterprise mapping, which I refer to here on the slide as well, which is making very similar points. So you see that these are 2 transformations which we often don't have in focus when we think about what social enterprises are contributing to society. Now you would think, wow, this sounds great. So everyone is going to love social entrepreneurs and enterprises. They are going to cherish them and support them in the best possible way. But unfortunately, that's not the case yet. So I see 2 big challenges. The first one And at the bottom, you see the corresponding research, and on the top, a blog post that relates to it, is that we looked at policies across Europe in many different countries. And of course, this is put in a very pointed and a bit provocative fashion, but there's, at the policy level, there's still a lot of confusion about what social entrepreneurship is, what social enterprises are, and especially this process of social innovation and sustainable transformations and the complexities of it that I mentioned at the very beginning. And the result of that is that we still have inadequate support structures. The second point that I want to make is that you have the social enterprise, the social entrepreneurship sphere, and another one which is thriving at the moment, which is impact investing and responsible investment more generally. But I think there is still quite a disconnection between the two worlds, which you see in the graphic here, which has emerged in our Accelerating Investment Readiness MOOC, which we actually developed as part of an Interact project. And you see especially that first, those two worlds are still divided, and that's also the argument that I make in the blog post that I have on the bottom here. And the more important point is that social entrepreneurs often can't draw on the full spectrum of finance because they sometimes have these difficulties in that profit and the transformations that I've been describing earlier don't always go hand in hand. So they have a lot to offer, but it's not appreciated in the way it should be. What is the reason for the mismatch and the challenges that I've just described? I argue it's because we don't see the bigger picture. And what is the way forward? I argue it's an integrated view towards what social entrepreneurship is contributing to society. So the solution that I'm proposing, so you see here another graph from the MOOC I mentioned, which are actually animated videos that if you want to can check out on our YouTube channel. This is the story of a social entrepreneur in the food business that at some point was realizing she can grow her impact by growing her own organization, but that has severe limits. So at some point she shifted this to educating others rather than growing her own organization. And the most important point, and these are sort of the pink circles here, and number two is what I'm referring to now, is that she was thinking about how to position herself in a bigger system, in the sense of how could she collaborate with big business, how could she collaborate with academia, but also with policymakers, in order not only to grow her own organizations, but change the system in which food, in this case, cacao, is produced and the standards that are being applied. What's very important is that she was going through a journey basically and was thinking about, what is my solution? What is my theory of change? How do I actually get to the biggest impact? Really detaching this thought from her own organization and really thinking about how she could be shifting systems and the process, the societal process that is necessary to get to this change. And a very important point, and that's also the headline of this event, impact, is really thinking about what kind of evidence can I gather in order to see whether I'm getting to these transformations. So this is one side of the story. This is really directed towards social entrepreneurs, the organizational level. Think outside the box, think beyond your organization and look into what kind of collaborations you can be forging, in order to get to this transformational stage. And the argument that I'm making on the posts on the right side, a German and an English version, is that policymakers shouldn't only be thinking about how they can design framework conditions, but how they can be part of this process. Because we see in our research and in our experience as a network that it is essential that policy is collaborating with the social entrepreneurship sphere and area in order to get to this transformational stage. And to conclude this and to close the loop to what I said at the very beginning, if you recall the model that I was showing you, sometimes crises are actually a very good moment in time because they actually create quite a bit of cracks in the existing system, which enables these niche solutions, these innovative solutions, to diffuse and actually become mainstream. So you probably all sense that the current crisis, with all the downsides and all the problems that it produces, has the real benefit that this space, social entrepreneurship, the impact space in general, is getting way more attention. And I think we should all be using this momentum and this possibility to forge alliances and get to this integrated view, which we need in order to tackle the societal challenges that we're all facing.